Welcome to the Disruptor Connection. Today is Friday, November the 6th. It is great to have you here with us and great to be talking about an amazing organization for men called Movember. I'll give an introduction around Rich here in a little bit. Just a reminder that if you missed something or want to have missed a quote or something, these are recorded. They will be up on our YouTube channel as well as the Disruptor League channel. Also, don't forget the Q&A function. I will be watching the Q&A and the chat as well. But if you want to ask questions, don't wait. Put them in there and we will just ask them throughout this morning and through our time together. As well, let me do a formal introduction. So this is Rich Loesing. We had Rich on our podcast, the Combustion Chronicles. So it's great to have you here with us, Rich, and here to share some around changing the face of charity. But before we dive into our big discussion this morning, we have a little bit of a hype video that we want to show around Movember. So I'm going to turn it over to the producers and let that happen.
The first ones. Hey, I look good with this ones. The black, brown, red, and gray ones. The itchy ones. The ones grown by Dad. The ones grown for Dad. The I nearly didn't do it this year ones, and the absolutely filthy ones. They all raise awareness, raise funds, start conversations, and save lives. Because whatever you grow will save a bro. Sign up now at Movember.com.
Awesome. All right, so let me just give a little bit of background around Movember. Adam Groen and friends founded Movember in 2003 in Melbourne, Australia. It's the leading charity changing the face of men's health. Movember is a global charity, a global movement, a cult brand that has raised over $900 million, funding 1,200 men's health programs in 21 countries. Focus area for men's health is prostate cancer, testicular cancer, and mental health. By 2030, I love this, Rich, and we will dig into some of this. By 2030, Movember hopes to reduce the number of men dying prematurely by 25%. They want to reduce male suicide by 25% and reduce testicular cancer deaths by 50%. Rich, welcome to the Disruptor Connection today.
Thanks for having me, Sean. Excited to talk to you again. And yeah, like I said, I'm a little embarrassed. We're only 6 days into Movember. I wish my mustache was growing faster, but it is what it is. I'm not very follically gifted, but either way.
Well, Rich, we so appreciate. And what's really funny is I didn't realize where I was going to be for this event. And Rich and I are probably, 40 minutes from each other in Southern California. I'm here doing some work this week. I'm like, dang, we could have done this together. So
40 minutes in LA is probably what, a mile and a half?
Yeah. You're like, I could probably wave to you, right? But wow. So Rich, you want to share a little bit? You're the head of corporate development at the Movember Foundation. Tell us a little bit about your role. And then let's get in to talk about some of those powerful things that you guys, we've been really fortunate through the Combustion Chronicles, and even our last Disruptor Connection was with the CEO from Susan G. Komen. So we've really, this past few episodes, really been talking about health and this space, and really honored to be able to share around these great foundations. But you have a little bit of a different background and journey that took you to Movember. I mean, so you want to share a little bit about that, and then we can dive into some main themes here.
Yeah, of course. So I guess I can start with my journey and then lead into kind of my role here at Movember. But I came out to LA for law school, actually, about, 11 years ago now. And that's when I first heard about Movember. And I had no idea what it was. A friend came up to me, said, "Do you want to do Movember?" And I said, what is it? And he said, well, we grow mustaches. We raise awareness and money for prostate cancer. And then we have a big costume party at the end of the month. I said, sounds like my kind of charity. I'm in, let's do it. So we did it, loved it, did, pretty successful fundraising amongst family and friends. And just had a great time with it. Now, meanwhile, professionally, I finished law school. Actually, after passing the bar exam, went into finance for 5 years. So did the traditional kind of corporate route. But then an opportunity opened up to work in the development department at Movember, which the US headquarters is here in Los Angeles. And I jumped at the opportunity because, again, it's an organization that very personally meant a lot to me, loved it, had a great time with it, know it does tremendous work. So when I got the opportunity to work for Movember, I couldn't turn it down. So and that was about, that was 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago now. So fast forward to today, I'm the corporate development manager here at Movember. Every year around this time, we have hundreds of thousands of Mo Bros and Mo Sisters all over the globe participate in Movember. We have millions of donations come through every year. And a big chunk of that is our corporate supporters. So organizations that participate in Movember internally to help with employee engagement and have a good time and obviously support a great cause. So me and our team here on the corporate side of things look after all of those amazing organizations that are supporting Movember in a corporate capacity.
Well, awesome. Thanks for sharing your journey. I think, I know for me, even Rich, when I've heard about Movember and I've heard, and frankly, one of our team members, Matt and I, who you've been working with, were just joking. I can only stand my facial hair to be a certain length. And then it just, so I've never, done that piece of it, but I've learned so much over the few months of knowing you around what to do. And even the broad spectrum and scope that Movember is wanting to go tackle around this. And I think it's really important that we talk about, and I read it there in the beginning, but you guys have put a strong statement out, and I'm actually putting this into the chat for people that are may watch this. But by 2030, you guys hope to reduce the number of men dying prematurely by 25%. Say more about that.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And really at the end of the day, our mission is to stop men dying too young, right? That is Movember's cause. And to do that in any way possible, that's our goal, that's our mission, and that's why we exist. Having said that, we do focus on those 3 key areas that you mentioned before: mental health and suicide prevention, prostate cancer, and testicular cancer. But again, although those are the 3 kind of flagship causes, and we fund programs only in those 3 spaces, the big thing is messaging and getting the information out there. Because the reason Movember exists and why I think it's become so popular, I'm sure we'll dive into that a little bit more later, but generally speaking, men don't take very active roles in their health and well-being, right? So first and foremost, we want to make sure guys know the facts, have the information, and are taking active roles in their lives. Again, just historically and generally, if guys aren't feeling right, whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, they'll kind of push it off or maybe bury it deep down inside or say, I'll take care of it later, I'll take care of it later. And a lot of times that can lead to problems that do exist just becoming exacerbated, getting worse. So the biggest thing is we want men to take active roles in their lives. So if they're not feeling right physically, go talk to somebody, see a doctor. If you haven't had your annual physical in a while, even if you're feeling great, make sure you're on top of it. And when we know that when men are more active in those facets of their lives, they're going to catch problems earlier, they're going to feel better, they're going to be healthier physically, mentally, emotionally. So at the end of the day, we know that just the preventative measures, forget about all of the like the research and cures and things like that, those are really important too. But we know if men are getting to the root of problems and addressing them quicker, faster, earlier, that they're not going to die prematurely. And again, men die 6 years earlier than women on average, and there's no biological reason for that. It's for largely preventable reasons. So again, that's where we focus a lot of our time and energy, is getting to men and saying, you can prevent this, but you really need to be more active and more aware of what's going on in your body and in your mind.
Wow. So men die 6 years earlier than women. And do you think that part of that, Rich, is around this whole, and this whole stigmatism that, I'm a man, I'm supposed to be this way, right? Even what you're talking about around this preventative space, it's hard for us as men to say, oh, I need to go to the doctor, I need to go have this checked. That's mind blowing though, that 6 years prematurely, just because, we don't take care of ourselves. And I think what's even and more frightening to me and to think through in this process is, about a year ago, I really felt led to start a group around just living authentically in the land of bullshit as truth tellers. And how does that help? Because it really, when you say you want to reduce male suicide by 25%, that's staggering to me. And even in this pandemic, what are you guys seeing at Movember around this whole mental health space and how you guys are looking at dealing with it?
Yeah, that's a great question. We'll actually get the question a lot. Well, why is mental health one of your flagship causes? That's not something that specifically affects men, and that's absolutely correct. And in fact, a lot of what we're doing works on the female side of things as well. But the hard fact is that roughly 3 out of 4 suicides are men, and globally, a man takes his own life every single minute of every single day. And really putting that into perspective is just, it's tragic. It's an earth-shattering statistic just to think, in the time that we've had this conversation, 13, 14 men have already passed away from suicide. And so it's really important. And again, preliminary numbers on, rates of depression and suicide during this pandemic, they're not looking good either. So again, it's getting to the root of that cause, right? There's a lot of great organizations that do kind of crisis work around mental health and suicide prevention, and that's awesome. We found that the best place for us to spend our time and resources is in the preventative space, more upstream of that. How do we create those communities around men, give them the resilience and basically the training to fight with mental issues before it becomes a point of crisis, right? How do we create those networks? How do we get that resiliency amongst men so that when inevitably they have difficult challenges in life, whether it's from jobs or economic issues or health issues or whatever it may be, how are we preparing men to deal with those issues, right? Because it's better to get to the root of the problem than it is to say, oh, it's here, now let's try to fix it. So that's really it. And again, a lot of it comes down to messaging and to saying, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to cry, In fact, I think there's a lot of strength in vulnerability and sharing feelings and emotions. And we should kick some of these maybe more traditional ideas of, just bury it down, don't talk about it. And again, by doing that, I think we can provide those tools and those resources to men and women, frankly, to put themselves in a better place so that when they have to deal with difficult issues and situations, they're more prepared to do so and less likely to consider suicide a true option for them.
Yeah. So we do have a question here, Rich, around what specific tactics are being implemented around suicide prevention? So what specifically are you guys doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a lot of things. And as you mentioned in the intro, Movember's funded over 1,200 projects in over 20 countries. So if we wanted to go through them one by one, we'd need a much longer time today. So I'll speak to some of the more kind of high level things that Movember is doing. And I'll keep it kind of here in the US as well, because again, we have great programs in Australia, which is where the mothership is, and in Europe and all over the world. But there's a few things that we do from a strategy perspective. As I mentioned, one's the messaging. How are we getting the word out there? And again, that's where Movember, the campaign, the month that we're in currently, goes a long way. Is spreading that information, getting those statistics out there, and letting men know like this is a real issue, and these are the things we need to be talking about. And the hundreds of thousands of men growing mustaches all over the world are great spokesmen for that. The women that are encouraging the men in their lives to take action are great for that. So again, I can never overestimate how important the messaging aspect is. On the more programmatic side of things, there's several things. So one, digital tools and resources. So some new ones that we have this year are Movember Conversations and Family Man. Movember Conversations is a digital tool that simulates a conversation with a man and how to talk to a guy about difficult issues, right? A big part of the mental component is, again, guys shoving stuff down inside, not being willing to talk about it. And even if approached, maybe won't even open that door, right? So it's finding ways to talk to men about these important situations. So it's a great digital tool. I encourage folks to check it out. It walks through different scenarios of guys that are going through an issue, but maybe aren't as willing or open to talking about it. So again, that's one digital resource we have. It helps, guide how to have these difficult conversations. Family Man, one thing that we've noticed is that mental health becomes an issue in a lot of situations. Again, job loss, health issues, things like that. But one big one is men that are new fathers. That can be a very, very difficult time in a man's life when it comes to, a lot of times, providing for the family, taking care of the child and their spouse, things like that. So it's another digital module to talk about what's the proper way to deal with issues in your child's life, in your marriage and things like that. So again, providing those resources for anyone that can just log on and say, I'm struggling with being a new dad, or I'm struggling with opening up or having conversations with another man in my life. So that's some of the stuff on the digital side. When it comes to like boots on the ground stuff, one of our great programs here in the United States is called Making Connections. And it takes already existing community organizations and helps utilize those to talk to men of all different ages and races and shapes and sizes, but to build that community, to build that network, to cultivate their resiliency and know that they're part of this community. And that program specifically focuses in high-risk communities. So men and boys of color, indigenous people, veterans, farmers, things like that. And they go in and knowing that they have higher rates of mental health issues and suicide in some cases. How are we going to where men are, where they already are, and not saying, come to us and have these conversations that are difficult, that you don't want to have, but saying, no, you're already ingrained in this community. How do we come to you and help you build that mental resiliency and that emotional resiliency? So those are just a few. Again, we have all shapes and sizes, but again, that's where we focus, is on that preventative aspect and getting to men, going to where men are and having those difficult discussions, but very, very important discussions.
Awesome. Love it. So Rich, we titled this Changing the Face of Charity. And so, one of the things that you guys have really done, when you start thinking about how nonprofits should look, feel, function, and behave, and you're starting even to talk about it here. What does that mean for, when you're rethinking this non-for-profit, this, cause? How are you guys looking at that from your role here within the United States of, rethinking what a nonprofit should be?
Yeah, well, this is the side of Movember that I don't get to talk about nearly enough, but I love talking about it. The businessman, the entrepreneur in me loves to kind of dissect, why is Movember so popular? How did Movember get so big? What makes it unique? How did it disrupt the philanthropic industry? And I think, on reflecting on that, I think that there's several things that may make Movember really unique on here in the United States, but on a global scale, frankly. The first being the demographic. Generally speaking, at least to my knowledge, I didn't know of any charities that were focusing on men and for men, right? So that was the first thing, is who's speaking directly to men. Now, clearly there's charities and there's foundations that focus on men's causes like prostate cancer, like testicular cancer, but who's speaking to those men and on behalf of those men? Right. Again, not that men aren't or haven't been engaged in philanthropy, but it's been a very different model and relationship. It's usually, donate. If you have a cause that's specific to you, donate, maybe do a little fundraising, but that's it. Right. There was nothing kind of for men. So that's one. But the second one, I think this is the big one, is Movember made charity fun. it made it exciting and made it unique and something that you would do even if it weren't for a good cause, right? And I'll speak from my own experience. That's why I started Movember. It was great that we were doing it for a good cause, but the fact that I could grow a mustache for no reason, look like an idiot, have a big party, I mean, that's what was attractive to 25-year-old Rich, right? That was cool to me. So again, I've always donated to charities and done things because it's good. It's what I feel called to do, as a Christian man personally. But there was nothing I really loved that could take ownership over. And finally, I find out about Movember. I'm like, oh, well, this is something that's fun. It's crazy. It's a little wacky. It's a little irreverent, but it's for a good cause. I'm like, this is exactly something that appeals to me. And that's why I got started. I got hooked immediately. And, having worked for the foundation for almost 4 years now, that story is actually a very common one amongst a lot of our supporters, is that they started because it was fun, but then the more that they got involved and, participating year over year, the causes started to take more hold in their lives, and they started educating themselves. They started taking more active roles in their health. They have friends and family members that maybe have been struggling with different men's health issues. So it took a different angle, frankly. It said, listen, we got the cause. If the cause is really important to you, we're here. But it's also going outside of that and saying, if you want to have a good time and just, make it, have a fun month, great, but we're going to pull you into the causes through that. And I think very few charitable organizations were doing that. Frankly, I think very few of them still are. Or not, I should say. So that aspect I just find fascinating. And I think that really accounts for Movember's tremendous success globally and in the United States. And then finally, I'd say less important is kind of the model. We're largely, the vast majority of our revenue comes from peer-to-peer fundraising. Now, that was by no means, we're by no means the first organization to do that. But I think the way that we took it to another level, right? And again, this has to do with the demographic and making it fun, but not just having your own personal MoSpace page on Movember.com. Again, a lot of people have platforms like that for their charities and for their philanthropic efforts. But one, we made the website cool. It looks cool. It's sexy. It's easy to use, and it has great functionality. We allow individuals to group into teams to make a very unified and cooperative aspect of it. You can even have teams under a network. Again, the functionality makes it so that teams can show their support for one another and do it under a banner of a company or an organization or a friend group, but also compete against one another, have that competitive aspect. Again, generally speaking, that's something that really appeals to men, is competition, wanting to be the best, wanting to have the best mustache, raise the most money, move the most miles, things like that. So again, really just taking this peer-to-peer platform and idea that works really well for a lot of charities, but taking it to the next level and the functionality and making it fun and exciting and cool and the tracking and the leaderboards and all that stuff. Again, it's something that really took Movember to the next level in terms of reaching those demographics and carving out that niche in the philanthropic space. So I'd say those are kind of some of the big value adds that Movember brings that a lot of organizations really weren't doing at the time.
How many people annually participate in Movember, Rich?
The number varies greatly year to year, and obviously this is a weird year too, so we're still figuring out, what this year is going to look like. But annually in the United States, we have usually between 80 and 120,000 people sign up on the website. But that's just people that actively register on Movember.com, create their profile, all of that good stuff. People that unofficially support just by growing mustaches or having those conversations, and those that donate to the cause. It spans in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, on an annual basis. So the reach is very, very extensive.
So talking more about that, I mean, you guys raised somewhere around $900 million a year, right? Out of that, when it comes to cancer and the causes that you guys deal with cancer, does any of that funding go directly to new research?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I just want to make clarification. It's 900 million is what we've raised since inception.
So far. That's right.
Yeah. So, I mean, Yeah, it would be phenomenal if we could raise $1 billion a year. We're getting there, I hope one day, but not quite yet. But yeah, no, that's a great question. And a big chunk of the money we raise actually goes to research as well. And again, like I said, the gift and curse of Movember is that there's so many different avenues of programs that we fund, not only within those three key areas, but research, programmatic, networking opportunities, messaging, things like that. So yeah, it's a breadth of programs and projects. But when it comes to research specifically, we partner, and actually probably our biggest programmatic partner is the Prostate Cancer Foundation, which is headquartered right here in Los Angeles as well. And it's the world's leading prostate cancer research organization. And they actually have a subset of their research programs that are sponsored by Movember that is actually for innovative research in prostate cancer. So again, those programs specifically sponsored by Movember through the Prostate Cancer Foundation are specifically geared towards new and innovative research for prostate cancer, which again, cancer, things that are innovative in prostate cancer are also innovative in other types of cancers too. So a lot of the findings and research not just apply and help men that are dealing with that specific ailment, but can be used in other areas of the scientific community as well. So absolutely. And our partnership with the Prostate Cancer Foundation is a very long-standing one. And it's one that we're very proud of here. And I believe they're the largest recipient of Movember funds here in the United States as well. So again, it's a great partnership, and they're the leads. We can't ask for a better partner when it comes to biomed research than the Prostate Cancer Foundation.
Yeah. So, let's talk. Obviously, it's funny. We all probably thought by November of 2020 we wouldn't be talking about this pandemic anymore. But yet, here in the last week, we've seen countries in Europe go back to full shutdowns. And part of me thinks that we're probably not too far away from that again here in the United States. You're right, numbers are rising. So the ability to adapt and pivot for you guys, I said to you, our last Disruptor Connection, we had the CEO from Susan G. Komen on, Paula Schneider. And I mean, their whole world has been rocked from a nonprofit standpoint because, they have millions of people show up for these breast cancer walks. And they've had to flip their whole funding model. So at the same time, how are you guys continuing to do that? And how are you adapting? And then how do you continue to stand out and keep this so popular? When there's so many causes that each of us could give to.
Absolutely. And those are both great questions. And I want to take one step back. And as you mentioned, the pandemic, I think this is exactly why Movember focuses on the resiliency and preparing men for issues that may arise as it pertains to mental health. Because again, guys that have those networks, they have those avenues to talk about their feelings and their emotions and know how to deal with difficult situations. They're the ones that are handling this situation better, generally speaking. But yet there's still so many men and women that we haven't reached by talking about resiliency that are struggling. Again, we're seeing substance abuse rates go through the roof right now, suicide, rates of physical inactivity. Again, people that are generally, active, out and about, work out, it's dropping dramatically. So again, I think this is a great kind of test run, for lack of a better word. Again, this isn't something we want or is good, but it's showing that men that are prepared for this kind of situation can get through it better if they have those foundational aspects of resiliency. So I did want to kind of touch upon the pandemic from the programmatic side of things. When it comes to the business model side of things, I'd actually say we're in a pretty good position because we are uniquely positioned to handle this sort of thing. First reason is most of what we do is digitally based anyway through our website, right? Although there are always events being put on all over the United States and the world, those events are not put on by Movember. They're put on by our Mo Bros and our Mo Sisters. Again, when it comes to business model, it's very unique in that we try to empower our Mo Bros and our Mo Sisters to take ownership and support Movember in the way that's best for them. Whether that's growing a mustache, taking part in our Move Challenge, which is our distance walking and running challenge, hosting an event, or just doing something unique and weird that it doesn't fit into one of those first three categories. We call that mow your own way. So one, what's great is that we allow people to pivot however they can or want to, right? So if they're in places where they feel comfortable putting on an in-person event the way they've done in the past, great, continue to do that. But maybe you just do all of your fundraising and outreach digitally anyway. Great, keep doing that. But instead of thinking about this pandemic as, oh man, there's so much we can't do, we've also thought about it as the opportunity to do things that we couldn't otherwise do, right? When it comes to events, people are like, oh, we can't do our event this year. We can't do our event this year because of the restrictions. And it's unfortunate, it really is. I mean, we love getting people together in person. And when it comes to, connections and mental health, physical contact, and people hanging out together is great. You can't beat that. But there are things that we can do digitally that we can't do in person. And I'm seeing that with a lot of our corporate supporters kind of creating these new Zoom-based or online-based events. Cooking classes. We have a great Mobro out of Atlanta who's hosting a meatball cooking class. And obviously, you may know why meatballs are chosen. It's one of our causes. I'll let you guess. But what's great is that in order for 50 or 100 people to get together to cook and to make a recipe, you need a giant kitchen to do that, right? But when we're all in the comfort of our own home and we have our own kitchens, we can get the ingredients and we can follow along and do that. So he found a very unique way to support this that he couldn't do otherwise, right? Outside of this digital virtual world. Workout classes, in Movember, twice a week, we all log on to Zoom and do a workout together. And people, especially if you're in a more kind of buttoned up corporate space where you need to wear a suit and tie, people don't want to work out at the office. They don't want to get sweaty. They don't want to, have to change and shower in the middle of the day and things like that. Or maybe they're embarrassed. Maybe they're not much of an active or fitness oriented person. So they don't want to, put themselves out there maybe to start. When you're doing these things digitally, turn off your camera, throw on your gym shorts and your t-shirt and work out. Again, we're thinking about this as opportunities to do things and to engage people in ways that they haven't been engaged before. But it's really about just encouraging that creativity, that ability to adjust and adapt. And we see that as a really exciting way. And at the end of the day, your MoSpace page still lives online. So as long as you're getting people directing them to Movember.com for the information, for the resources, and still giving them an opportunity to support Movember and our programs, it's a win-win. So again, we're very optimistic about how this Movember is going to turn out. And we know that regardless of whether people are out and about or just remaining in their homes, those mustaches are growing all over the world.
Awesome. So let's go back to this. We keep talking a lot and started with this digital platform and even the connecting piece. So, when you go on the platform, how do you get connected to other men? Does it randomly link you to other men? Is there some type of questionnaire? How does that happen to get men to get linked together?
So when it comes to linking men, it's really all up to the user, him or herself, right? So what we see generally speaking is that people come with their friends and their networks, whether it's coworkers or friends, and then they create a team on Movember.com. And again, what's cool about that is you can band people together with this common cause, this common goal, and show your support and your success as a group together. But that being said, the search functionality on Movember.com is tremendous. So if you're looking for a certain Mobro, or you can just browse the leaderboards. And that's another great way too, is we rank all of the top teams and organizations and individuals from a fundraising perspective on Movember.com. So what's great is you can say, like, who are these guys that are going above and beyond for men's health? I bring up one of our best fundraisers and Mobros of all time, Sandy Goodman, who lives here in Southern California. He alone has raised over $500,000 for Movember in his 10 plus years participating. But what's great is by elevating faces and names like Sandy's, we've been able to connect him with other guys here in the Los Angeles, Southern California community. Again, the challenges. based on your zip code, you get placed in a regional challenge as well. So for a lot of our major metropolitan markets, you can go and see who are the other Mobros in my city that are participating in Movember and that are going above and beyond. So again, if you want to connect and you want to create that connection with other men, it's so easy to do on the website. Again, but you don't have to as well. You know, if you're just doing it, you know, to raise some money to support Movember, you're free to do that as well. But I think the important is giving men the tools and the ability to do that if they wish, and really just encouraging them to do so through our messaging and again, emphasizing the importance of that connection.
Well, I know that we at Mofi in the Disruptor League, we started a team this time, and we're doing the movement challenge. So say a little bit more about that, the whole 60 miles in the month of November, because I think this starts to tie back to what we talked about in the beginning.
Yeah. Well, we realized pretty early on that mustaches are always going to be the hairy ribbon of November. We don't have a pink ribbon. We have a hairy ribbon, lives on the upper lip. That being said, we wanted to get everyone involved. So whether that's men that are, unwilling or perhaps unable to grow a mustache, and especially our female community, which has been fantastic. And I'd love to talk more about our Most Sisters in a little bit. But we realized we should give people the opportunity to participate in Movember in other ways, aside from just growing a mustache. And one of that is encouraging that physical activity. Again, we know that a healthy body leads to a healthy mind. It's help with preventative health in terms of, when you're working out more, you're less likely to develop obesity and other forms of health issues that arise from that. So again, getting people active, getting people fit, whether you're just getting started or you're one of those freaks of nature that does ultra marathons, getting people active throughout not just the month of November, but throughout the year so that it can transform their lives and hopefully find a place in everyone's lives. So we implemented the Move Challenge several years back, and it's evolved into today's Move Challenge, which is tracking walking and running throughout the month of November. And we encourage that 60-mile number. And the reason for that is that's representative of the 60 men that tragically take their own life every single hour globally. So again, it's a great way to take our cause and to tie one of our really important causes with this need and encouragement to stay physically fit and physically active. So again, if mustaches aren't your style or you can't grow a mustache, maybe the Move Challenge is for you. Maybe you want to get up and active and go above and beyond by going for that extra walk or that extra run every day or couple of days, and just again staying active throughout the month. But again, that's just one of the other ways that people can get involved in Movember, and we saw it as a great opportunity to engage more people, especially our female community.
Love it. So let's talk a little bit about your Most Sisters and that involvement before we get run out of time, because I know it's a really passionate space for you guys.
Yeah, so our Most Sisters are such an important part of our Movember community, and that's for a few reasons. One, we look up to them because, again, Movember was largely inspired by what the founders saw in the female health movement, especially as it pertained to breast cancer awareness, and just seeing how passionate, because it was breast cancer is such a common cancer among women, and to see not only women, but the entire world rally around this cause to support this really important issue, and said, we can do that for the men in our lives. Because also we recognize that if we're supporting healthy women, we're supporting a healthy society. And conversely, when we're supporting healthy men, we're supporting a healthy society. So when we get the question of, how can women help? Why should women care? It's exactly that. It's we want men and women all around the world of all shapes and sizes to be healthy as they can, because again, the healthier we are, the better we are as a society. So that's one thing, is looking up to them. And as I mentioned before, generally speaking, they take better care of themselves. They're more willing to see someone if something's going wrong or talk to someone. They're more willing to be vulnerable. They'll go see a doctor more often. So again, looking up to them and taking after that incredible example they put. And I think most importantly, again, we all have those important men in our lives. So it's important that we encourage, if we're men, obviously take care of ourselves first and foremost, but to reach out to the men in our lives to encourage them to take action as well. And that's where I think the Most Sisters are more important probably even than the men, because I'm sure a lot of them know how much influence and power they have over men in a variety of ways, right?
Yeah.
So when you're encouraging, if you're one of those most sisters out there, when you're encouraging your husband or your son or your dad or your uncle or your friend or your coworker, whatever it may be, when you're encouraging them to be more active in their lives, they're more prone to do that. They're more likely to say, yeah, you know what, you're right. Whereas again, when sometimes guys, we can tend to be like, oh yeah, no, I don't want to do that. Yeah, whatever, push it off, push it off. But again, speaking from my own experience, when my mom or one of my sisters or my fiance tells me to do something or tells me to at least seriously consider doing something, I'm more inclined to do it because I know they come from a place of love. They come from a place of encouragement. And again, most of the times they're right. So again, there's such an important place for our Most Sisters in the Movember movement and in our organization. And frankly, we have a ton of female employees and leadership here as well that helps give us that additional perspective. So it's great. So again, we're honored to have so many amazing female supporters, and we hope that the numbers of Most Sisters continue to grow the way they have for years to come.
Awesome. So two things before we close up here, Rich. What other causes might Movember expand into in the future?
We're not really sure. We have a lot on our plate right now.
Yeah.
And again, we're trying to find, Movember is about innovation. It's about going places and spaces that people aren't going or maybe haven't explored to the extent that they should be. So if we find those places where it's like, oh, wow, this issue or this cause really is undervalued, underfunded, things like that, then I think we would definitely be open to exploring those. But for now, I mean, the three causes we have, it started just as prostate cancer, then we added testicular cancer, and then the third and most current cause is the mental health and suicide prevention piece. We got our hands full right now. So we're still looking for ways to innovate in those specific spaces. And if we find other causes, I'm sure we'd be open to exploring them. But for now, I think those three are the ones that we're really leaning into hard. But again, at the end of the day, whatever we can do to stop men dying too young, we're going to try to do. So that's kind of where we sit. I hope that wasn't too much of a politician answer for you. Again, I think we're very pleased with where we're at now, and we have a lot of room to grow in the spaces that we've already kind of committed to.
That was so centered. So centered, yes. In a week like this, we'll allow you to get a good political answer there. Hey, again, the Mofi team, we have, we've got a team committed to do the Move Challenge. We're going to raise money this month. We've set a goal for those of you that are listening and watching. We put the link in the chat. So the last thing before we call it here, Rich, is this call to action. What can our viewers do to help? Simply.
Well, the first and the most important thing would be, if you're a man, take care of yourself. Take action in an active role in your health and well-being. And if you're a female, and well, this goes for everyone, men and women alike, encourage other men in your life to do the same thing. That's the most important thing. Again, if we can get men taking proper care of themselves, we're happy campers, because that's what we're here to do, is to help men live happier, healthier, longer lives. So first and foremost, do that. If that's the one takeaway from today, do that. On a more kind of specific level as it pertains to Movember, sign up on Movember.com. Really, it takes 30 seconds. It's great. You can curate your own MoSpace page. Join the Mofi team. Again, we want to bring people together in the name of men's health. So go to Movember.com, join the Mofi team. And then however you choose to support Movember, do it. Whether it's just raising awareness, getting the message out there to your friends and family. If you want to do some active fundraising, again, we're a charity. We couldn't fund the amazing programs we do without the support of our awesome fundraisers. So, put some asks out there. Whether people want to donate $5 or $5 million, any little bit helps, right? So do that. Take the Move Challenge. Get out there. If you're not much of a runner or walker, go for that extra, half mile, 2 mile walk every day or once a week, whatever. But again, go to Movember.com. That's where you can find the resources, the information. If you want to do fundraising, that's where you can do that as well. But just get active. And even if it's starting one conversation with one man that you maybe haven't talked to in a while, or just checking in on somebody, do that. Again, this is prime time, especially given the pandemic, the social unrest, everything we got going on in this crazy year. It's important that we're checking in on each other, looking after one another, men and women alike, and really just supporting each other the best that we can.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Rich, for today and for being with us. As we close up here, to everyone listening and watching, that 2 weeks from today, Friday, November 20th, we'll have Jason Arashabin, founder of Jason Beverly Hills. He is disrupting the luxury jewelry industry. Just found out, if you follow him, he's actually making the next round of championship rings for the Lakers. So may see if he can show us a potential insight to those. And so you'll see that link coming up in here as well, that you can register there for us, as well as the Disruptor League Plus, who sponsors this with the Disruptor League. Go out on disruptorleague.com. It's created for people like you listening. We love to build that community and in there. And as well, we have a survey. We always want your feedback at the end of these. Give us some insights on what to do next. But again, Rich, thank you. Thank you to Movember. We'll be in touch many times over the month, and hopefully you and I'll be catching up in person here in the next week. So thank you, everybody, for being on here today, and have a great weekend.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.